not scalable anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't really. You can tell when certain things are decided by
Wrong people.
the wrong people,
Yeah.
yes. But we're back to it, man.
Finally.
We're back to it. Took a couple weeks off, had some stuff going on, man. So we can just do a quick kind of recap of what we've been doing, and then kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today. So,
Yeah.
what's new with you, Steve?
I think since then, I went to. Damn, have we talked since I got engaged?
No, I don't think so.
I got engaged.
He's engaged,
Woo.
ladies and gentlemen.
Then the next weekend, I went to the Altus Speed Conference in Chicago.
Yep.
Saw like every big name in the industry there. It was cool. It was cool to just be around those people.
Yeah. Who's your favorite speaker?
The most practical. My only negative feedback has been the presentations weren't really practical. It's like more philosophical and ideas, and but I looking back, I think they're everyone did like a part 2 to their presentation privately.
Yeah.
And recorded it, and that's like the practical application. So I might have to like eat all those words I said. The only practical one I saw, I left a little early on Sunday, was Lauren Landau.
Okay.
Strength coach at Notre Dame for football. He's got the PowerPoint up there, but he's not even on the stage. He's on because they did it on the basketball court. He's running around demonstrating. He pulled people from the crowd. People that he used to coach or that were like used to be part of his staff. So he had 4 people out there, and he pulled them. Hey, demonstrate this. And so like that was cool. It was like a return to play from like a lower extremity injury or something. And he had just had hip surgery. So he's like, I did this. Like I actually went through this. Yes, I had my athletes do it, but like this is what I used to.
Yeah.
So that was cool. There's sports science stuff. There was philosophical like programming and speed stuff, injury stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different fields being represented there. Doctors, physical therapists, coaches, strength coach, speed coach, football coach. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone's like, the best part was everyone's cool. Everyone's just nice.
Yeah.
Go up and talk to them.
Yeah.
So did that, and then we just got back from Mexico like a week ago, less than a week ago.
Yep, a couple days ago.
Yeah, celebrating a bachelor party.
Yep, good bachelor party down in Mexico City. Had a good time. Still kind of catching up on sleep a little bit. I think I'm there though. I think I'm pretty close to being there. That was good. Really, other than that, for me, man, we've just been chugging along. Football had their camp last week at Shrine, and then they have a scrimmage tomorrow. So they usually do it at Westfield, but I guess Westfield is redoing their turf.
Jeez.
So, you ever been to Westfield?
No, but they got money.
Yes, it's very nice down there. They have a great setup down there. They have a freaking elevator in their press box. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's I think it's like a rule. I think if you have 2 stories or more, I think in your press box, you have to have an elevator. It's someone was telling me that last year. But anyways, they're going to
college.
Yeah, literally. They're going to do that tomorrow. They were going to do it at Ben Davis because usually it's Westfield, us, Ben Davis. And last year it was East St. Louis. There's some big dudes, man.
T-Free said they're still. Okay.
Yeah, just in the sense of last year was the first year East St. Louis was doing it, but they're coming back this year. So, I mean, those are three of the best teams you can kind of get looks against. So, it'd be good for our kids to go down there. But I think they're changing it to like the Colts, maybe their indoor facility or something, just because how hot it's going to be. Because they're supposed to get down there. I think their scrimmage is supposed to start at 5 or 6 or something. So it's going to be on the turf. It's going to be
in the 90s.
Yeah,
maybe more.
at least. I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to be in the 90s, like just
Yeah.
temperature-wise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So doing that, football's in full swing, so that's always a good time of the year. Busy, but good time of the year. So we have one week left, I think, before our first moratorium week. So that'll be good for the kids to kind of just get into. Yeah, we've had some pretty good numbers this summer. Each week it usually kind of drops off a little bit. And we've had more teams kind of commit to being, to trying to make it required,
Yeah.
Which is a whole different discussion because that's a hard thing to do if your coach doesn't work in the building. But at least we've had more effort to get more sports involved during the summer. So that's been going well. A lot of construction going on around here.
Yeah.
Getting the stadium put in here on campus. So tons of construction going on, but short term kind of sucks, for me, because you kind of have to figure out
Where you're at.
what we're doing, things like that.
Are you mainly across the street?
So we run, our conditioning days are across the street at Lane.
And do you lift those days as well? Oh, okay.
No,
okay,
but
that helps.
then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have, half and half. Half the group's inside lifting, half the group's outside. Well, outside we have to use the, I can't remember if we talked about this or not. I think we did. We use that bus lot out there between Glenwood and Snyder.
Oh,
so like
okay.
where parents drop their kids off and move back around. Yeah, so that's, really the only option we have. It kind of sucks because it's on concrete. But, our track honestly wasn't much better.
Yeah,
Track
as long as no one's getting shin splints.
Yeah, well, we got a good amount of those.
Yeah, concrete
and it's like,
do it.
yeah, and we have those even when we're not on concrete,
Yeah.
especially if a kid, doesn't run from November until, May.
Yeah.
Or, we have a lot of kids that put on weight, in the off season too. So
Yeah.
that'll affect it. But yeah, I've just been doing that, man. Summer's been going well. Before we know it, school's going to be here. So yeah, that's really, I think, the most recent kind of happenings. But today, to kind of get back into it, we just kind of talk about what sets certain kids apart, or another way to think about it is like how you can set yourself apart as a high school or college athlete in terms of playing your sport. So I know at least for us at Snyder, I tell people this all the time. Like, I just finished my 4th year, so my first full class of kids that I saw from freshman to senior, and was really lucky just with the class that we had, or I guess that I had for my first 4 years, because we had some great athletes, but even more than that, like those athletes were just really good kids, really good people, and committed and bought into everything, and have, I guess, seen the fruits of their labor, at this point. So, it's summer. A lot of those kids are either already at their schools or are getting ready to go to their schools. So I figured it'd be appropriate to kind of hit on, what sets them apart and why they've had the success, they've had. So, and I'm sure you see a lot of them, at the field house and working through there. So I guess what would you say some of the things that set, certain kids apart?
Yeah. And even just from like a athletic standpoint, probably most of them, times have changed. Damn, I feel old, but times have changed since we were in high school.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, I guess I should qualify, play multiple sports, or at least used to when they were coming up through middle school, maybe. I think that's a huge part of the athletic development. It's not even just like an opinion. There's like a lot of research on that.
Yeah.
I think that's important. But times have changed, and people are just doing basketball at school, and then they're doing AAU year-round, and they're doing their basketball training, and that's it.
Yeah.
Or soccer or volleyball or whatever. It's just kind of something we were talking about before we started, is like the the buy-in certain athletes have.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge piece. Especially, I mean, I'm obviously biased. I went here too. I played for Coach Tippmann. But when you have good leadership, when you have a good head coach and just good leadership, people who care.
Yeah.
And you're bought into their message. And thankfully here, I think the message is it's the right message. It's positive. It's about growing young adults. And you buy in completely to that, I think great things can happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think, especially in this day and age, everybody wants to be a Division I athlete. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I don't think a lot of young athletes understand what it takes to get to that point, and not only get to that point, but to have success at that level as well. Just thinking of the kids that we had, it's like, to your point, the three main ones that I'm thinking of that are going to Division I school all played multiple sports. Mm-hmm. They all, from freshman year on, were at pretty much every lift, every training session that we did. I mean, sometimes they're playing, two sports. So we had a kid that played baseball and ran track at the same time. So it's like, as a sophomore, he would come in at, school wouldn't start until 9, I think. But he would come in and do his track workout in the morning, from 7:45 to right before 9, and then practice baseball after school, and then go play a baseball game, and then after the baseball game, go to a track meet, run a track meet, and then do it all again the next day. And that's not even mentioning, like, for the first couple of months he was doing it, he was walking to school.
I didn't know that.
From, I used to live, back in that neighborhood back behind Blackhawk.
Like where you grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would walk. I mean, that's a 45, 50-minute walk, hour walk. So he's walking to school. He's doing all of that. Obviously, I think Coach Tip saw him one day walking and was like, "What are you doing, bro?
We'll give you a ride."
Yeah, we can get you a ride. So
Tip is the man.
Yeah, I think, that level of commitment to, chasing his goals of being a Division I athlete, I think is very rare nowadays, especially with social media, and especially with just people being used to instant gratification, or wanting something super fast. It's like, man, it's a long game, obviously, trying to have success at that level. But I think all of that stuff goes a long way, and I think a lot of those kids that have that success or get that success of competing at the next level, it doesn't even have to be a Division I, but you know what I mean, getting a full ride scholarship or getting a scholarship to go play sports. I think more often than not, a lot of those kids that achieve those goals care less about the social media aspect than a lot of the other kids that say they want that stuff, but don't really put the work in to achieve it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even
flip that mic up, Steve.
Man, I was worried how this was. It won't stay up.
On the stash.
How'd you do this? I don't care about the damn sore neck stash.
There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
Thinking about the D1, people want to be D1. Talking with Chris, NAIA track coach.
Yeah.
When he's recruiting people, he's like, oh yeah, I want to go D1. He's like, well, why?
Yeah.
What's the difference in, especially at track, where it's not oh, who's the competition you played against and things like that. It's what were your numbers?
Yeah.
Did you run this time? Did you throw this distance? You jump this distance? It's just numbers. He's like, well, why do you want D1? I don't even remember what he said the common answer is. But then he's like, do you think there's a difference in what a D1 college can get you, provide you, afford you, versus any other level? And they're like, no, not really.
Yeah.
It's man, just go where you're wanted.
Yeah.
Go where people want you. And with transfer portal, go wherever you can go for free, and then you can bounce next year. Not that I really encourage that, but like you have that option.
Yeah, it's possible, right?
Yeah, and even thinking about the walking to school, like if you're so bought into like the importance of what you said, it was track practice or lift, or
Yeah.
you're so bought into the importance of track practice first thing in the morning that you're willing to walk, honestly, 45 at least
Yeah,
minutes.
at least.
And we're talking northern Indiana in the spring. Like, it's not warm.
Yeah.
If you're so bought into it, I mean, you're getting, just at minimum, you're getting a placebo effect, which I don't knock. I don't think placebo is a bad thing. Just from, like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you're so bought into it, you're going to get something out of it regardless.
Yeah.
Like, you're so invested into it. Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And how important do you think, with those three and me thinking about some of the athletes on the private sector side, how important do you think like genetics and their just their natural athletic ability, how important do you think some of that is?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It definitely is. But just thinking of the three, 2 out of the 3, I would consider like, genetics definitely help them at least get to, or at least have a foundation to build upon to get to that level. I think the third one, I think he's definitely a good natural athlete, but he's not as blessed as the other 2 genetically. And I think what you lack in, at least for this one kid, this is kind of general, but what he lacks in natural athleticism, I think he makes up in like toughness or grit or whatever you want to call that. Just the sense of like, this is the kid that, was an inside linebacker junior year, won a state championship, and like in the first or second quarter, like broke his wrist and didn't tell anybody until after the game. You know what I mean?
And if it's who I think you're talking about, this kid's not going on to play college football.
No,
he's playing in a different sport.
Yeah, he's playing in a different sport. And so it's just like, that's a perfect example of like, nobody knew anything was wrong with him until after the game was over. I mean, even with that said, like in the second half, like he's like playing out of his mind, flying around, bro, like hitting people, like doing his thing, you know what I mean? And I think that in and of itself is a rarity, you know, to be able to push through something like that. And that's not the only time he's done something similar to that. But yeah, I think back to your original question, genetics definitely play a role, especially if you want to get to that Division I level. You look at, anybody that has a scholarship to play Division I sports, or even people that walk on to play Division I sports, like they are going to be genetically they're going to be a good natural athlete. You know what I mean? Everybody at that level is going to be, even the scout players, you know what I mean, are going to be probably the dudes at their schools.
Yeah,
you know?
We say that a lot when we're at IU.
Yeah.
Like, making fun of some of the players, mind you, they're all better than me.
Yeah.
But like, oh, you see him on practice squad, and it's like, this bum or whatever. And it's like, well, he was the guy at his high school.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, everyone here was like the best player, most likely.
Yeah.
At their high school. Yeah, definitely plays.
Yeah,
a role.
It plays a role for sure. But still, even though I think of those other kids that had very good genetics or, naturally blessed in that area, the 2 other kids that I'm thinking of are still like tough ass kids. You know what I mean? They still had toughness to them and just a lot of different situations where, even something as simple as like going through a hard ass workout, the day before and showing up the next day when it's going to be hard, I remember one of those kids would always, when it would come like playoffs time for football, it gets cold outside, especially in Indiana, like practicing outside, and like he's out there in shorts and like pads and a practice jersey.
Is this the guy that walked? Or is this the other? Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And just out there and, I'd go out to practice after lifts or whatever and like be out there in a hoodie or something and like, like, man, you're not cold. And be like, man, I don't get cold. I don't know what cold is. Just like, that's like, as a 15, 16-year-old kid,
Yeah.
like he's got that mentality,
Yeah.
And the other kids would do the same thing too. The two other kids that I'm thinking about, and maybe not to that extreme, but just like having a mentality of like, yeah, like this, like, this isn't a problem. You know what I mean? Like I can handle this. I think their ability to handle adversity, which we've talked about before, I think is something that's very important as well, and something that you're going to see a lot of at the next level too. But it's like, our last weekend, a week ago from yesterday, baseball team played semi-state championship, semi-state doubleheader. Played the first game of the semi-state game, ended up losing, but we have a kid that was played in South Bend. We have a kid going to Notre Dame, which is in South Bend, and so I texted him a couple of days after we got back from Mexico, and he said so they lost the game on Saturday, so his high school career is over. He said he moved in on Sunday to wherever he's living, and then I think on Monday he flew out to Arizona for
was it the MLB Combine?
Yeah,
or
the
something?
MLB Combine. So I think they said the top 300 like high school prospects get invited, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, that's just, again, another example of like, yeah, this is what it takes, man. Like this is, you can't really be half in, half out. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, just another example of something that a lot of kids wouldn't do or be okay with doing, but he's like, yeah, like this is what I signed up for, and this is what I'm here for. And, I think that, plays a big part too. So,
Yeah.
so genetics, obviously, toughness, and just like how committed you are to really fulfilling or reaching your goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially, again, talking about, I'm just thinking of basketball players right now. I play at school, I play AU all year round, I don't have time for other sports. Some of these guys and girls that I work with, that literally is their life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we got school ball, local high school, 6 to 8 a.m., would come into our lift after that, and then they would do like a kids camp that's basketball back at their school, and then have like either AAU or private training after that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is your life. Like just the dedication it takes to, I used to think about this with BP, one of our friends that played college baseball, D1 college baseball. Growing up, being friends with him in like elementary school, middle school, and we would talk about how I would call him. I was gonna say text, but before texting, to like hang out on the weekends. And, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this baseball game. We're going out of town for baseball. We're doing this for baseball, or basketball. I mean, he was a 3-sport athlete as well for most of that time. But it's like the dedication, the sacrifice, time-wise and energy-wise, to that stuff is more than I think people understand.
Yeah.
There's Bill, I forget his last name, sports psychologist. I was watching like a YouTube thing of his, like a podcast or something, and he was saying that he asked his athletes, like, what do you want? I'm probably getting these questions kind of wrong, but there's 3 questions. What do you want? How bad do you want it? And how much are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
Like literally, what are you willing to give up to get it? Because you're going to have to give up time with friends. You're going to have to give up eating at this restaurant. You're going to have to give up fun and, just thinking of how T-Free talks about the kid that walked to school. Like, he's willing to give up being cool and having the high school experience in order to achieve what he wants.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's another big thing that, will set those kids apart. Like you said, they are not concerned with going to parties and, sure, I'm sure, they want to do fun stuff, but, with them, again, they understand that, hey, this is my North Star. This is what I'm working towards. And kind of like we were talking about earlier, like if what I'm doing doesn't serve me in getting towards that goal, then I'm just not going to do it, you know? But I think a kid's willingness to sacrifice and suffer, you know, I think is, plays a big role, because a lot of kids are not even just kids, a lot of people are not truly willing to sacrifice and suffer to get to where they want to be. You know what I mean? And just thinking of like, you know, what all of those kids, the ones that come to mind that we're talking about that are set apart, what all of them have, you know, sacrificed and given up to get to where they're at, you know, and that's really honestly only just the beginning. You know, when you get to college, like you're gonna have to sacrifice even more than probably what you did in high school. So I think that plays a big role as well, like your willingness to just give up, you know, short-term satisfaction or fun things in order to reach your ultimate goal. And again, I think that kind of correlates with, you know, these kids that do get to that level, and it's not always like this, but all three of these kids are, their lack of care about like the social media aspect of things and like how things look, you know, like the three kids that we're talking about, like, I mean, would have some of the craziest highlight tapes in the sports that they played, and I've never seen one. You know, they don't really put, I mean, they'll post clips when they do
Their
here
huddle
and there. Stuff like that, but never like hey, come out and record me and you know, make an edit for me type of thing. You know, it's like, I mean, they don't really, I'm sure they would like it, you know, but they don't really put much energy or effort into that. Whereas you see a lot of kids that, you know, do that, but lack the willingness to sacrifice or lack the commitment to walk to school, you know, playing two sports and going to two different practices and playing a baseball game and running a track meet, you know. So I think that plays a big part into it too. Another thing I would say is, and this kind of goes hand in hand with some of the stuff we've already talked about, but just like maturity level, you know, like I think of the kid that went out to Delaware, you know, like he is like one of the best kids I've ever met, you know, just athletics aside, sure, he's a great athlete, but just like his maturity level and kind of his perspective on things is very unique, especially for a high school athlete. And I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know what all kind of factors into a kid's maturity level, but like, you know, he is, man, like you can just see it in his everyday activity and when you talk to him and how he holds himself and how he treats other people. And, you know, like he's a great example of, we had a freshman this past year, and then he was a senior, obviously, this year. They were in the same weightlifting class. And you could tell the freshman was like looked up to this kid. You know what I mean? Like you could see it from a mile away. And like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I saw the senior, the one that just graduated, you know, put up a clip of him. He took this kid bowling. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't know who all was there. It could have been a group of people. But the only people I saw in the clip was him and the freshman. And like, bro, they're just, you look at them and you would never think that they would be friends, you know what I mean? But like, man, here they are on a Saturday. Like, bro, he clearly recognizes that, you know, he is more or less a role model for this kid. And, you know, clearly recognizes that the influence that he has on him. And, you know, I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday night, you know, like take time out of your day on a Saturday night. Mind you, this is 2 weeks before he left for college, you know? And it's just like, yeah, man, that's just a great example of a kid that is like just in the right mind space and a kid that is mature enough to be able to recognize the influence that he has on people, and his ability to just say, you know, I can understand or I can see kind of what this relationship is and invest into that relationship and help this kid out that, he doesn't know anything to, I think,
Yeah.
Is really cool. And something that you don't really see a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah. In my limited experience with two of those three guys,
Yeah.
plus another Snyder kid that's playing football down in Indy, is like, just to like the character standpoint, and again, very limited experience, especially relative to you. They're like in a group setting when the coach starts talking, me in that, like, eyes on me. Like they were done goofing around. They're high schoolers. They're talking. But as soon as I'm starting like to give information, it's done, and we're just like, we're watching, we're listening.
Yeah.
And then two, their willingness to compete. I know this is something we've talked about probably in Mexico a good amount, or it happened recently. I remember you talking about it, but their willingness to compete against one another, push one another. They still encourage each other at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But like, competition is a part of it, and it's only it's gonna elevate everyone, unless it's like too much stress and pressure and it brings you down. But like, if you continue to stress yourself and put pressure on yourself to compete, like, that gets easier and easier. But yeah, their willingness to push themselves and compete really in anything.
Yeah.
We're doing vertical jump from what I remember, and they're like just kind of talking a little crap to each other as it's going. And there was no excuse. Oh, well, you weigh this, I weigh that.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, let's see.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's another huge part to it.
Yeah, 100%. I know we've talked about this, but it's a very, very good point, because I think that is something that sets those kids apart from the others, just your willingness and your desire to compete. Like, two of those kids, the two baseball kids, both played football, but, they've been friends for, I don't know how long, but they've known each other well before high school. And one of them, the one that's playing baseball next year, so as a freshman, his freshman year, we had our 6th and 7th period are non-athlete classes. I know I told you this. 6th and 7th period non-athlete classes. And, sometimes Coach Congdon would bring the kids in and do something against the gym class. And so this one kid had a gym class during 6th or 7th period. I forget which one. But we would bring our class over to play like dodgeball against their kids, And so like our non-athlete classes are, these are upperclassmen, obviously non-athletes, but older kids, sophomore through senior. And I just remember watching them play dodgeball against these freshmen. And it was literally just pretty much the one kid that's playing baseball next year. And like, this kid was, bro, he was messing these kids up, bro. Like, and he's got an arm too, you know what I mean, as a baseball player. So he's like, bro, beaming kids, talking shit to them as they're walking out, like, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is literally just a PE class game of dodgeball, and this kid is like fired up, bro. You know what I mean? Like, getting after it. Like, even then, like, we would, like a year or two after that, in the actual athlete class, we would have at least two of the kids, the two baseball kids, and a bunch of other, like, good athletes, especially in our 4th period class, go up, and they would, like, if I told them, like, we had an option, if it was a Friday and we did well that week, like, if we had an option to play dodgeball or basketball, like, they would get a group of, 15 or 20 kids, go up and play dodgeball. And it's like, bro, it is like intense, you know what I mean? Like, they are getting after it, again, talking shit to each other. And just, their desire to compete is different. You see it even, like, especially on, like, Black and Gold Day, like first full day of contact, like, do like an Oklahoma drill type of thing called Black and Gold Day. And, man, as sophomores, they're in there, like, bro, just getting after it. You know what I mean? Like, hitting people, not afraid of losing, or not afraid of out there and getting embarrassed. And more often than not, they're the ones that are like coming out on the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your willingness to compete, I think, is another big aspect of what sets those kids apart. You know what I mean?
And then kind of on the flip side, thinking of, I mean, again, private sector, and you already know this, but during the previous summers, I would go to different high schools and work with their football teams. And there are people, and you've probably seen this here. I know you have, maybe not with football, but with other sports, I'm thinking specifically like women's basketball, where there's very talented players.
Yeah.
That end up going on to play Division I that just weren't any of these qualities we talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe they like to compete. Maybe they would sacrifice time to practice their sport a lot, but not to the commitment level that was talked or mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And then you see them drop off. You see them transfer. You see things don't work out their way. I'm thinking there's one of the football players I'm thinking of, two of them, really good football players. Neither one's going to play in college.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're the best on their team.
Yeah.
Not that there's a good team. Excuse me. There's other really good local high school football players that go on to play college that end up transferring out, or other sports end up transferring out, not transferring up, but transferring down. I forget where I was going with this. Damn it, I forget.
That'll hit you a couple minutes from now.
Yeah, it probably will. Oh, I'm thinking of, there we go, it's coming back. When Rod Woodson came and talked to us, had to have been our junior year.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Rod Woodson, NFL Hall of Fame safety, record holder at interceptions, and some categories I forget.
Went to Snyder.
Went to Purdue, played a long time for the Ravens and Raiders. And he was telling us in his talk how he didn't really start working hard until he made the Pro Bowl. He was an NFL Pro Bowler, and he was there and he saw someone else doing a workout or something. He's like, oh shit, I gotta pick it up, or talking to some of the guys, whatever. And it's like, man, some people do just have it. Back to the natural talent genetics thing. Some people do just have it, and the cliche phrase of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
And you see that especially in I know I sound old for the second time, the social media era that we're in right now, where it's you just want that attention and those looks. And I mean, shoot, both of us do social. We're doing this for a reason.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to put in the work and understand the sacrifice and take those losses, not being scared to lose, it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah, for sure. It's just interesting to think about, just everything that goes into, having that success that everybody says they want, but very few people actually get. It's the same kind of thing, when, as you're saying, when a lot of those kids were testing at the field house, they're again, competing with each other, going back and forth. And we see a lot of that here as well. It's especially with those kids, it's they'll run a time, I think specifically on the pro agility, they'll run a time and it'll be a good time, and then someone will come up and beat their time, and they're like,
man, let me go.
Man, forget that, man. Let me go again.
Let me go again.
By the end of the day, they're running, 12 to 15 reps of it, just trying to get, a 100th or 200th of a second faster than what they already ran, or same thing on the vertical jump, or really any of the tests. You can argue that they're willing to do that, and I think just that internal drive of being willing to compete or wanting to compete, I think goes a long way. And it also kind of makes me think of the Kobe mentality of not I can't remember if it was, I think it was Kobe.
Hey, we'll give it to Kobe.
Yeah, I think it was Kobe. Just when they go play on the Olympic team and people are going out, you know what I mean? They're coming back from the club, and they get back at 4 a.m. or whatever it is, and they see Kobe like as they're walking back into the hotel, you know, Kobe is waiting to be picked up. You know what I mean?
To go work out.
To go work out. You know, and they're just getting home, and he has no interest in going out and doing any of that stuff because, like, again, what's his North Star? You know, what's he trying to accomplish? What's the goal that he's trying to serve? You know, and if it doesn't apply to that, then he's probably not going to do it. I think the same thing. I think 2 out of the 3 kids we've been talking about, I think will probably have a good time in college. You know, I think they'll live it up, and all 3 of them probably will. But I think the one specifically, I don't even really think and I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, it's, you know, no knock on him.
Yeah, it's his life. Go have. We had fun in college a little bit. You know?
But just from, you know, getting to know him a little bit over the past couple of years, like, yeah, I don't think he's really. I'm sure he'll go out and, you know, do all of that, but I don't think he's really, you know, wants to spend much time or energy into doing that.
Doesn't care.
Doesn't care. Again, it's like he has his goals set on whatever his goals are, and it's like, man, everything he does is going to serve that goal. You know, not saying that, you know, you can't go out and have fun. Again, I think especially in college, like, I think you should experience some of that, you know, and be smart about it. But, you know, college is college for a reason. And, but still, I think, you know, that ability to be like, not even the ability, but just the internal lack of interest, really, and doing all that stuff all the time, I think, again, is going to set them up, you know, for long-term success in the future, you know. So, because I mean, that's especially at those levels of schools that those kids are going to. Like, I mean, it's going to be everywhere. You're going to be able to get into any place you want. You know, you're going to be able to, you know, not do whatever you want, but you're going to have access to a lot of different resources that are going to let you live that life if you want to. And I just don't think, you know, those kids are really going to go super hard in that area. Yeah. You know, again, it goes back to just discipline and commitment and buy-in to what it actually is you want. I think that's another kind of aspect of something that will set those kids apart in the long run. Yeah.
And on that note, just the Kobe note, I was watching a Kobe YouTube video the other day. I forget why. Just clicked on it while I'm like doing something in the kitchen or whatever. It was like an older interview, like while Kobe was still playing basketball. And someone asked him, the reporter, podcaster, interviewer, asked him, how's he feel? Like, what do you think about failure? How do you feel about failure? He's like, I love it. Like, that was his immediate answer. I love it. And I don't know, I was expecting like the traditional, like, I hate losing kind of answer. Hate losing, I hate, not succeeding. I hate not reaching my goal. And he was like, I love it. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, that's your opportunity to learn. Yeah. Like, you have to look for answers. Like, that's your opportunity to look for answers. Yeah, you can still learn and find answers when you're winning, but not like compared to when you're losing. Yeah. And it's like this made me, it was twofold. You bringing up Kobe, and earlier you bringing up those guys competing black and gold day, just not being scared to lose. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's probably a little bit of nerves. They're sophomores in this story. They're growing up against bigger seniors, but like still having the courage to step up and do it and be like, if I lose, I lose. Yeah. You know, I think that's a huge part of it. And now just like kind of running through all the things we've talked about, other than genetics and natural talent, which, you know, to a certain point, you're going to need something. For sure. Like, there's just some people out there, like, you got no shot. So not to be at that level. Maybe in a different activity, skill, sport, whatever. But everything else was kind of like a mindset sort of thing. Like, hey, you're going to have to be tough. You're going to have to compete. You're going to have to sacrifice and be disciplined and be consistent. You're going to have to be bought in. It's like all of these little things are more of, can you just beat your own brain? Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's kind of crazy how much that plays a role into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is. You know, at the end of the day, I think a lot of those are, I don't know if I want to call them choices. Some of them are choices, and some of them are just internal. You know, your internal drive to compete or commit to something, or, you know, your maturity level to be able to make those decisions, I think goes a long way as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think as the more popular, you know, just sports in general get, you know, I think the rarer it becomes to have a kid like the kids we're talking about, you know, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because people are trying to get into it for the wrong reasons, or, you know, they're trying to get into it, again, to go back to what we talked about, just like social media for attention, or whatever it is. But then again, at the same time, it's like, you know, I look at these kids that I'm talking about and think of, you know, at least I've really only talked to one of the three about just the whole like NIL situation, but this kind of goes back to like their maturity level as well. Like, you know, he would show me, you know, posts or send me posts of, you know, people from the area that, you know, go on to big time colleges and, you know, cash out on a nice car or a big ass chain or, you know, the typical stuff that you see. And he's just like, yeah, man, like I just don't, you know, we've talked about it a little bit. He's talked about just like investment properties and, you know, investing his money into different things and like, man, just his maturity level or his perspective on how he's going to utilize his current position as an 18-year-old young man to set him and his family up for success in the future is like, man, it's rare. You know, you really don't see that a ton, especially like, not that he's super, not that he's poor or anything or comes from like a really bad situation. Like his parents are, I've met both of his parents and are both awesome people. And obviously that has an impact on how you grow up and things like that. But again, it's like, yeah, I mean, they don't have a crazy amount of money. So usually you see, you know, people that come from, you know, not a ton of money, you get that money, especially as an 18-year-old kid. And you're like, I gotta do something, you know, I gotta do something to.
Let me have fun. Let me get this. I always wanted this. Let me get this.
Yeah, but to have that, you know, the mindset of being like, yeah, I'm just gonna, he'll probably buy a couple records, you know, for his record player and and everything else, you know, he'll probably, again, just be smart about it, regardless of whatever that looks like. But I think that plays into kind of like your maturity level as well. You know, it's kind of what your mindset is with the resources that will become available to you when you do reach that level of success that you've had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Can't really think of anything else, man.
No, I think we hit on the big categories.
So we had what? We had just discipline, just like commitment, discipline. We had, what was after that? Do you remember?
Because we could probably throw a couple of them into that. Like, if we stick with just commitment and discipline, like buy-in, sacrifice. I think those all kind of go in there. It's kind of the same words.
Yeah.
And then there was like grit, toughness, hardworking. And then the only other, like willingness to compete.
Yep.
And like, I think that goes with, you know, not being scared of failure.
Yep.
And then the only other one we can work with, especially with what we do, like we believe we can work with, but there is a certain basement level of just natural ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maturity level. You know, I think that fits in probably into another different category. But I think all of those things, I think if you're an athlete out there that is trying to figure out how to set yourself apart or how to reach your goals, whatever those are, you know, I think those kind of things, I think take a look at where you think you are within those categories and just be honest with yourself, you know, and kind of see where you stand and really where you're at right now as an athlete. And I think, if you lack in certain areas of those, then maybe try to get better at it.
Yeah.
If you're really truly committed to reaching your goals and having success, again, whatever that looks like for you, I think those things are all very important. It doesn't even have to be sports,
Yeah.
It can be really anything.
Yeah.
Any professional, artistic,
Yep, I agree.
pursuit. I think all of those can apply to that and kind of help you get to kind of where you want to be. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's a good kind of outline of
Yeah.
what it is.
Feels like a blog post or something.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So yeah, we're back at it. We'll continue to do some more. Haven't really dropped anything yet, but do some more like in-person stuff too, and
Yeah.
kind of see what works out. We got a few things set on the schedule over the next couple weeks, so we'll knock that out, and then just keep chopping wood, carrying water. You know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to. So
I haven't even read that book.
it's a good book.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, it's a
Everyone
good
says
book.
that.
Anything else before we leave?
Nah, that's it. I'm good.
All right, man. See y'all next week. Peace.